I am standing in front of the old house on Maple Street. 23 years have passed since I last stood here as a child. The paint is different now, the fence is new, but the memories remain unchanged. On my 8th birthday, my parents threw me out into the cold October night. No cake, no presents, just the sound of a door slamming behind me. That night, I thought my life was over. I did not know that my Aunt Elena would find me wandering alone and change everything. Before we begin this journey together, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If stories of survival and hope speak to your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Now let me take you back to that cold October night when everything changed. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and secrets were hard to keep. Our house sat at the end of a quiet street, a 2-story building with peeling white paint, and a yard that was never quite maintained. From the outside, we looked like any ordinary family. But behind those walls, ordinary was the last word I would use. My father Richard worked as a mechanic at the local auto shop. He was a big man with rough hands and an even rougher temper. Most evenings he came home smelling of motor oil and whiskey. The whiskey was his constant companion, and when it flowed, so did his anger. He had a way of looking at me that made me feel like I was something stuck to the bottom of his shoe. An inconvenience. A mistake. My mother Sandra stayed home. She cooked, she cleaned, she did laundry. What she did not do was protect me. She moved through our house like a ghost, always agreeing with my father, always looking the other way when his voice rose or his hand swung. I used to think she was scared of him. Later I realized she simply did not care enough to fight. Then there was Kevin, my younger brother. He was 2 years behind me with blonde hair like our mother and our father's easy smile. Kevin was the golden child, the one who got new toys while I wore hand-me-downs from neighbors. The one who got second helpings at dinner while I scraped the bottom of the pot. I never blamed Kevin for any of it. He was just a kid, same as me. But I would be lying if I said it did not hurt to watch him live a different life under the same roof. The signs were always there looking back. I ate less so Kevin could have more. I wore clothes that did not fit while he got new sneakers every school year. When Christmas came, his pile of presents towered, while mine held maybe 1 or 2 small things. My parents never hit me in ways that left obvious marks, but their words cut deep enough. Worthless. Burden. Accident. I heard these words so often they started to feel like my name. The day everything shattered was October 15th, my 8th birthday. I woke up that morning with a small spark of hope in my chest. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe they would remember. Maybe there would be a cake with candles or a card, or even just a hug and a simple happy birthday. The morning passed, then the afternoon. Nobody said a word. Kevin went to a friend's house. My mother watched television. My father was at work or at the bar or wherever he went to avoid being home. I sat in my room watching the hours tick by, feeling that spark of hope slowly die. By evening, I decided to make my own birthday special. I found some colored paper in Kevin's desk drawer and carefully cut out a card. I drew a cake on the front with 8 candles. Inside, I wrote "Happy Birthday" to me in my best handwriting. It was silly, I know, but I was 8 years old and I needed something to hold on to. That was when my father came home. I heard his truck pull into the driveway, heard the heavy footsteps on the porch. The front door slammed open, and I knew immediately from the sound of his breathing that he had been drinking. I stayed in my room clutching my homemade card, praying he would just go to bed. But Kevin's colored paper was missing from its usual spot, and my brother, who had come home by then, noticed. The footsteps came up the stairs. My door flew open. My father stood there, his face red, his eyes bloodshot and mean. In his hand he held the wrapper from the colored paper pack. "You stole from your brother," he said. His voice was low, which was somehow worse than when he yelled. I tried to explain. It was just paper. I wanted to make a birthday card. It is my birthday today. He laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "Your birthday," he repeated. "You think anyone cares about your birthday? You think you deserve to celebrate anything? You are the reason we cannot afford nice things. You are the reason I have to work double shifts. You eat our food. You take up space. You are nothing but a drain on this family." My mother appeared in the doorway behind him. I looked at her, begging with my eyes for her to say something to defend me, to tell him it was just colored paper, and I was just a child who wanted to feel loved on his birthday. She said nothing. She looked at the floor. My father grabbed my arm and dragged me down the stairs. I dropped my birthday card somewhere along the way. He pulled me through the living room past Kevin, who sat frozen on the couch, past my mother, who still would not meet my eyes. He opened the front door and shoved me out onto the porch. I stumbled down the steps and fell onto the cold grass. I was wearing only a thin t-shirt and jeans, no shoes, no jacket. The October air bit into my skin immediately. I scrambled up and ran back to the door, pounding on it with my small fists. "Please," I cried. "I am sorry. I will not do it again. Please let me back in. Please, it is cold. Please." The porch light went off. Inside, I heard the lock click into place. I kept knocking until my hands hurt. Then I went to the window and looked inside. The television was on. Kevin sat on the couch staring at the screen. My mother sat beside him, her arm around his shoulders, like she was comforting him from the disturbance I had caused. Nobody looked at the window. Nobody looked at me. That was when I heard my father's voice muffled through the glass, but clear enough to understand. He was talking to my mother, and he said the words that would echo in my head for decades. "He is not my son. He never was." I do not know how long I stood there in the cold, staring through that window at the family that had just erased me. Eventually, my body started moving on its own. I walked down the driveway, my bare feet aching on the cold pavement, and I just kept walking. The streets of our small town looked different at night. The familiar houses became shadowy shapes. The streetlights cast pools of yellow that felt more threatening than comforting. Every sound made me jump. A dog barking, a car passing, the wind rustling through dry leaves. I walked without direction, my arms wrapped around myself, shivering so hard my teeth chattered. I passed the grocery store where my mother sometimes took me. I passed the school where I sat alone at lunch most days. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt real. It was like I had stepped into a nightmare version of my own life. Eventually, I found myself at Riverside Park. It was empty at this hour, the swings hanging motionless, the slide gleaming dully under the distant streetlight. I sat down on one of the swings, the cold metal chain biting into my palms, and I let myself remember. My mother had brought me here once years ago, before Kevin was born. We had spent a whole afternoon together, just the two of us. She pushed me on this very swing, and I remember laughing, feeling like the luckiest kid in the world. She bought me ice cream afterward. Strawberry, my favorite. That memory felt like it belonged to someone else now. Some other boy with some other mother. Not me. Not her. I was hungry. I was cold. I was terrified. But more than anything, I was confused. What had I done that was so unforgivable? Why did my own parents hate me so much? The questions circled in my mind like a trapped bird beating its wings against the walls of my skull. A police car drove slowly past the park. I saw its lights, heard the crunch of its tires on the road, and something inside me clenched with fear. I had heard stories about kids who got taken away by police, sent to group homes, orphanages, places where bad things happened to children nobody wanted. I slid off the swing and hid behind a thick oak tree until the car was gone. After that, I kept moving. I walked until I remembered my grandmother. My father's mother lived just a few blocks away. She was old and stern, but she had always given me candy when we visited. Maybe she would help. Maybe she would let me sleep on her couch and sort everything out in the morning. Hope flickered in my chest again as I made my way to her house. The porch light was on. I knocked softly at first, then louder when no one answered. The door opened. My grandmother stood there in her bathrobe, her gray hair in curlers, her face pinched with annoyance at being disturbed so late. "What on earth are you doing here?" she demanded. I told her everything. The words tumbled out between shivers and sobs. "Dad threw me out. He said I was not his son. I have nowhere to go. Please, Grandma, Please help me." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she said, "Wait here." She closed the door. I heard her footsteps moving away, then her voice muffled talking on the phone. A few minutes later she came back. "Your father is coming to get you," she said. "Honestly, child, I do not know why you insist on causing trouble. Running away from home in the middle of the night, worrying your parents sick." But I did not run away. I protested. He threw me out. He pushed me outside and locked the door. My grandmother shook her head. "You always did have an imagination. Just wait quietly until your father gets here." My father arrived 15 minutes later. He had put on a jacket and combed his hair. When he stepped onto the porch, he was the picture of a concerned parent. "Thank you for calling me Mom," he said to my grandmother. "I have been looking everywhere for him." He took off after dinner. "You know how kids get at this age?" My grandmother nodded, like this made perfect sense. "Well, he is safe now. That is what matters." I tried to speak, tried to tell her the truth, but my father's hand clamped down on my shoulder, squeezing hard enough to bruise. "Come on, son," he said through gritted teeth. "Let us get you home." He marched me to his truck, opened the passenger door, and practically threw me inside. Then he got in and started driving. We did not go home. He drove for maybe 10 minutes out toward the edge of town, where the houses thinned out and the fields began. Then he pulled over to the side of the road, got out, and opened my door. "Get out," he said. When I did not move fast enough, he grabbed my arm and yanked me onto the gravel shoulder. Then he hit me. Once, twice, 3 times. Open-palmed slaps that made my ears ring and my vision swim. "You keep your mouth shut," he said, leaning close so I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "You tell anyone else about tonight and next time it will be worse. You understand me?" I nodded, too shocked and hurt to do anything else. He got back in his truck and drove away. He left me there on the side of the road, miles from anywhere, in the middle of a cold October night. I do not know how long I sat there on that gravel shoulder. Time stopped making sense. The cold seeped into my bones. I could not feel my feet anymore. I thought maybe I would just sit there forever, that this was where my story ended, forgotten on some nameless road outside a town that never cared about me. Then I saw headlights. A car was coming down the road, slowing as it approached. Part of me wanted to hide again, but I was too tired, too cold, too broken to move. The car stopped. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out. She was tall and thin, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was wearing scrubs, like she had just come from a hospital. She walked toward me slowly, carefully, like I was a frightened animal she did not want to spook. "Oh my God," she said when she got close enough to see my face. "Is that you? Is that really you?" I did not recognize her at first, but when she knelt down in front of me, when I saw her eyes, something stirred in my memory. A Christmas dinner years ago. A woman arguing with my mother. A door slamming. A name I had heard only in whispers since then. "Aunt Elena," I whispered. She burst into tears. She pulled me into her arms and held me so tight I thought my ribs might crack. But it was the best pain I had ever felt. It was the pain of being wanted, of being seen, of being held by someone who actually cared. "What happened to you?" she kept asking. "What are you doing out here?" "Where are your parents?" I told her. All of it. The birthday, the paper, the door, the grandmother, the roadside. I told her everything, and she listened without interrupting, without doubting, without looking away. When I finished, she stood up and helped me to my feet. Her jaw was set. Her eyes were fierce. "You are coming home with me," she said. "And then we are going to fix this. I promise you everything is going to be okay." She led me to her car, wrapped me in a blanket from her back seat, and turned the heat up as high as it would go. Before she started driving, she took my face in her hands and looked straight into my eyes. "You are safe now," she said. "I got you." Those 4 words changed my life. Aunt Elena's apartment in Columbus was small. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in. But that night it felt like a palace. She made me soup. Chicken noodle from a can, nothing fancy, but it was the best thing I had ever tasted. She found warm socks and a sweater that was way too big for me, but soft as a cloud. She ran a hot bath and let me soak until my skin pruned and my shivering finally stopped. When it was time for bed, she gave me her room. I protested, but she would not hear it. She made up the couch for herself and tucked me in with 3 blankets and a stuffed bear she had kept from her own childhood. I could not sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's face, heard the lock clicking, felt the cold. Sometime around midnight, Aunt Elena came in. She did not say anything. She just sat on the edge of the bed and took my hand in hers. She stayed there all night, holding my hand, keeping watch. When I woke up in the morning, she was still there. Over the next few days, I learned more about my aunt. She was my mother's younger sister, though they had not spoken in nearly 5 years. There had been a falling out, something about money my mother had borrowed and never repaid, accusations, made harsh words exchanged. Aunt Elena had been cut off from the family, declared persona non grata at all gatherings. She had never met Kevin. She had not seen me since I was 3 years old. She had driven through our town that night, purely by chance, taking a shortcut after a late shift at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. Fate, she called it. Or maybe something more. The day after she found me, Aunt Elena made phone calls. First to her own lawyer, an old friend who agreed to help. Then to Child Protective Services. Then to the police. What followed was chaos. My parents, it turned out, had not even reported me missing. When the police showed up at their door to ask about their son, they claimed I had run away. They said I was a troubled child prone to lying and acting out. They expressed concern, but showed no urgency. Child Protective Services visited Aunt Elena's apartment. They interviewed me alone, asking gentle questions, taking notes. They photographed the bruises on my shoulder and the scrapes on my feet from walking barefoot through the cold. Then came the legal battle. At first, my parents did not even try to get me back. I think they assumed I would just disappear, become someone else's problem. But when they realized there might be criminal charges, when they understood that their reputation in that small town might be at stake, suddenly they wanted their son returned. They hired a lawyer. They accused Aunt Elena of kidnapping. They painted her as the villain, a bitter woman trying to destroy their family out of petty jealousy. Aunt Elena used her entire savings to fight back. Every penny she had put away over years of 12-hour nursing shifts went to legal fees. But she never complained, never hesitated. "This is not about money," she told me once when I asked her why she was sacrificing so much for a nephew she barely knew. "This is about doing what is right, and you, sweetheart, are worth every penny." The custody battle lasted 6 months. 6 months of court appearances, of depositions, of waiting and worrying. I had to testify. I had to sit in a room and tell a judge with my parents watching exactly what they had done to me. My father looked at me the whole time with cold, furious eyes. My mother would not look at me at all. She kept her gaze fixed on her hands folded in her lap, like she was praying for this all to be over. My grandmother testified too. She backed up my parents' story, called me a liar, said I had always been a difficult child. Watching her lie so easily, so completely, broke something inside me that I did not know could still break. But then something unexpected happened. During the final hearing, my father's lawyer called Kevin as a witness. He was only 6 at the time, but the judge allowed it. I think my parents' lawyer assumed Kevin would support their version of events. He did not. Kevin sat in that witness chair looking so small and scared, and he told the truth. He said he saw our father throw me out. He said he heard our mother tell our father to just leave me outside, that maybe I would learn my lesson. He said nobody looked for me that night. Nobody called the police. They just went to bed like nothing had happened. When Kevin finished talking, he looked at me across the courtroom. His eyes were full of tears. "I am sorry," he mouthed. That was the moment the case turned. The judge ruled in Aunt Elena's favor. Full custody. My parents lost all rights. They were also charged with child neglect and abuse. They received suspended sentences and 5 years of probation, which felt like a slap on the wrist given what they had done. But at least there was something. At least it was on record. When the final gavel fell, I did not feel joy. I did not feel vindicated. I just felt tired. tired and empty and ready for it all to be over. Aunt Elena took my hand and led me out of that courthouse. We walked into the pale winter sunlight together. "It is done," she said. "You are officially mine now." I looked up at her, this woman, who had sacrificed everything for a child she barely knew, and I felt something new growing in the hollow space where my heart used to be. Hope. The years that followed were not easy. Healing never is. But Aunt Elena was patient in ways I had never experienced before. She took me to therapy. Once a week, every week for years. At first I hated it. I did not want to talk about my feelings or draw pictures about my trauma or any of that stuff. But slowly, session by session, I began to open up. I began to understand that what happened to me was not my fault, that I was not worthless or a burden or a mistake, that I deserved love even if my parents had been incapable of giving it. Aunt Elena taught me things my parents never had. She taught me how to cook simple meals, starting with scrambled eggs and working up to spaghetti with homemade sauce. She taught me how to do laundry, how to balance a checkbook, how to change a tire. She taught me that asking for help was not weakness, and that crying did not make me less of a man. She went to every parent-teacher conference, even when it meant switching shifts at the hospital and losing hours. She sat in the front row at every school play, every baseball game, every award ceremony. She was there for the small moments and the big ones. She was simply there, which was the greatest gift anyone had ever given me. By high school, I had transformed. Not into someone perfect, not by a long shot. I still had nightmares sometimes. I still flinched when people raised their voices. I still struggled to trust to let people get close. But I was surviving. More than that, I was beginning to thrive. I graduated with honors. I received a scholarship to Ohio State University, where I studied social work. I wanted to help kids like me, kids who fell through the cracks, kids who needed someone to notice them, to fight for them, to tell them they were worth saving. The day I graduated from college, Aunt Elena sat in the audience and cried. When I walked across that stage to accept my diploma, I looked out at her face, at this woman who had rebuilt my entire life with her bare hands and her stubborn heart, and I mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." She just smiled and cried harder. I got a job working for the state child welfare system. It was hard work, heartbreaking work. But every time I helped remove a child from a dangerous situation, every time I connected a kid with a foster family or a counselor, or just listened while they poured out their pain, I thought about that cold October night. I thought about how close I came to disappearing entirely. And I was grateful for the chance to be for others what Aunt Elena had been for me. Time passed. I bought my own place, a small house about 20 minutes from Aunt Elena's apartment. I visited her every Sunday for dinner. We would cook together, watch old movies, talk about everything and nothing. She aged gracefully, retiring from nursing at 62, filling her days with gardening and volunteering at the local library. When I was 32, I got married. Her name was Jessica, a woman I met at a conference for social workers. She was kind and fierce and funny, and she loved me in a way I had once believed was impossible. At our wedding, Aunt Elena walked me down the aisle. It was unconventional, but it felt right. She was, after all, the only parent who had ever truly been there. A year later, our son was born. We named him Elijah. The nurses probably thought it was just a nice name, but Aunt Elena knew the truth. The L at the beginning was for her. 15 years after that courthouse victory, I received an unexpected phone call. My mother had tracked me down somehow. She was sick, she said. Cancer. She did not have long. She wanted to see me before she died. She wanted to apologize. I nearly hung up. Every instinct in my body screamed to refuse to protect the peace I had worked so hard to build. But something made me pause. Not forgiveness, not yet. Curiosity, maybe? Or perhaps the need to close a chapter I had tried to ignore for too long. I went to the hospital alone. I did not tell Aunt Elena or Jessica where I was going. I needed to face this without anyone holding my hand. My mother looked small in that hospital bed, fragile in a way I had never seen before. The woman who had watched silently while her son was thrown into the cold had become a withered shell, wires and tubes mapping her body like roads to nowhere. She cried when she saw me. She tried to reach for my hand, but I kept my distance. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "I was weak. I was scared of him. I should have protected you. I should have been a mother. Can you ever forgive me?" I stood there for a long time looking at this stranger who had given birth to me. I thought about all the years of therapy, all the work I had done to release the anger and the hurt. I thought about what holding on to resentment had cost me and what letting it go had given me. "I forgive you," I said finally, "but not for you, for myself. I forgive you because carrying this weight does not serve me anymore. But I will not pretend we have a relationship. I will not pretend the past did not happen. I just release you from the debt you owe me because I do not want to be connected to you by hatred anymore." She sobbed. She begged me to stay, but I had said what I needed to say. I walked out of that hospital room and never went back. She died 3 weeks later. I did not attend the funeral. My father had disappeared years earlier, drifting from town to town, drinking himself into obscurity. Kevin and I reconnected as adults. He carried his own guilt, his own trauma from growing up in that house. We are not close, but we check in with each other from time to time. He understood why I could not forgive our parents. He barely forgave himself. Today I am standing in front of the old house on Maple Street. A different family lives there now. Children's toys scatter the front yard. A tire swing hangs from the oak tree. Laughter echoes from somewhere inside. I do not feel anger anymore. I do not feel pain. I just feel gratitude. Gratitude for Aunt Elena, who saw a broken boy on the side of the road and chose to love him. Gratitude for the life I have built from the wreckage of my childhood. Gratitude for every person who believed in me when I could not believe in myself. Blood makes you related, but loyalty makes you family. The people who choose to stay, who choose to fight for you, who choose to love you, even when it costs them everything. Those are your real family. Aunt Elena taught me that, and I carry her lesson with me every single day. Now I want to ask you something. Think about your own life. Think about the people who have stood by you through the darkest moments. Who is your real family? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. If you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message today, share this video with them. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community. May you find your Elena. May you become an Elena for someone else. And may you always remember that you are worthy of love, no matter what anyone has ever told you. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.